The book is entitled The Emotionally Healthy Leader, and the author is with me. His name is Peter Scazzero. Welcome back to 100 Huntley Street.
John, thank you.
Pastor of New Life Church in Queens, in the greater New York area. And we are delighted that you're here to talk about a subject you're writing about, and you're also doing ministry formation with, about seeing that leaders do get in a good emotional state. The presupposition of the book is that there are a lot of leaders in the church that just aren't emotionally healthy. Talk about that.
Well, it comes out of my own life. I've been, my own development as a leader in the early years did not touch what I would call the emotional aspects of leadership. So I was taught all about, organizing, strategic planning, preaching, teaching, building a church, all that. Mm-hmm. And certain aspects of the inner life, like spending time in prayer and Bible study, but there wasn't any integration of what I would call the emotional aspects of who we are as image bearers of God and how it relates to life and leadership. It's just ignored. And so I found myself after about 8 years of pastoring and planning a church in New York City that I was crashing.
Yeah. 28 years in ministry now. Mm-hmm. How long at New Life?
28 years.
So as a church plant?
We planted it, yep.
All right. So you find yourself as a much younger man, 3 decades ago, trying to go through this, I don't know what you would call, trying to discover your identity or trying to prove yourself. There's a lot going on. You're getting out of grad school or seminary, and you're trying to make a name for yourself, trying to get along with people. You probably have a young family at that time.
4 girls.
There's a lot going on. And you go in, did you feel that you didn't go into ministry prepared for those? Did anyone even ever come along and tell you that it was going to be this kind of emotional stress or strain in leadership?
People talked in generalities. And we actually went to plant a church, Jerry and I, in the inner city of New York, a place called Queens. Our church has 73 nations to it. Yeah. It's a very complex area, lower middle class, so tremendous needs. But we went there to bring the gospel, impact the community. And people said it would be difficult, but there was never a discussion of in-depth what was going on in your life. So, looking back now, someone should have said, Scazzero, yes, you can lead, you can build a church, you've got a lot of gifts, but there's some issues here that need to be touched on before you really launch this. And nobody did that. They were just looking at, hey, he can get it done, he's a leader, send him out there.
Yeah. I was a church planter too. And at 25, we started with 18 people, and I just got married, and I found myself so wanting to try to impress everyone of what, that I really had it all together, and I was probably the least qualified person of the 18, and there I was, their leader. I don't know if that identifies where you are in the journey, but it is fascinating. I want to get into some of the meat of this. You talk about 4 characteristics of the emotionally unhealthy leader. Yep. May we walk through a few of those together? Because I think you're right on target. Number 1, and we're going to have these in the lower thirds. Number 1, they have a low self-awareness.
Yes.
So that means what?
Well, I'll start with this. I'll speak for myself. I never had considered how my family of origin had impacted who I was as an adult, and how it then impacted my leadership and my spiritual formation of following Jesus. So there was always an emphasis, hey, you're a new creation in Christ, all things are new. I used to joke around with my wife. I said, Jerry said, let's talk about your family. In the past, I'd say, no reason to talk about it. It's under the blood of Jesus. Yeah. I'm a new creation. And she says, you're not new. I live with you, and I didn't do feelings. I didn't do much. I wasn't big into feelings. I was a type A, let's make it happen and take the next hill. Mm-hmm. And there were reasons for that, going back to my family of origin. And so very low self-awareness about what's going on in the interior life, busy, making it happen. And so that low self-awareness has wide implications because it's scary to become aware of what's going on the inside. And again, how the past impacts the present.
Is low self-awareness also, you're not aware of what's going on around you as well, related to how your decisions can impact other members of your immediate family or members of your leadership team?
Absolutely, because my ability, we like the word to incarnate, enter somebody else's world, is limited. How can you get to know me, for example, if I don't know me? Mm-hmm. How can I share with you what's going on inside of me if I don't know what's going on inside of me? So what happens is a low self-awareness has implications not just for my own personal life, it has gigantic implications for my ability to love, my ability to engage, my ability to allow people to engage with me, be vulnerable and broken.
Issues of intimacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't reveal brokenness, for example. I'm not vulnerable.
Transparency, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really a big. We talk. You know what? They're preaching points.
I know. Guilty. Let me move forward because there's
Yeah.
so much good. A second characteristic of an emotionally unhealthy leader is they prioritize ministry over marriage or singleness.
Yes.
Ministry's everything.
Yes. Yeah, we would say that if you're married, for example, and you've made a vow to be married, you're not just, I'm a Christian and I'm married. No, if you're married, I lead or I live out of my singleness. So in other words, that marriage now informs everything you do. So when I say about being a priority, it's an understanding that if I've made a vow to be married, that means that I've made a vow that our marriage is going to reflect the marriage of Christ in the church, and that it's going to be a sign and a wonder of something much greater than itself. It points to something beautiful, which means I invest in this marriage so the love of Christ pours out of it to be a blessing to the world. And so I've got a vision for this marriage, not just to be stable and have a good life. It's actually, I am leading, my vocation is now as a married leader. And so it so impacts everything I do. And so to live like you're single and you're married is just outrageous because you're married. But we don't disciple people in how to have marriages. It was never discussed in seminary and leadership conferences. You don't talk about lead out of your marriage. And as one person said to me, if you ever brought this to the wider church, and my wife and I have been in this now for 19 years, they said it would wreck the church because we don't talk about that. And we weren't trained in it. We're talking about generationally, it's been ignored. And if you look at the history of the church and you look at some marriages of great people that we follow and pick up their home life was not all it was cracked up to be, but we just don't talk about it. And it's, to prioritize ministry over marriage, it's just unbiblical if you're married. Now, if you're single, at the same time too, that you lead out of your singleness, and you've got a sense of, okay, I'm single for Christ, at least whether it's vocationally as a called, celibate, or you're single, you'd like to be married someday, but for now you're leading as a single person. Therefore, you're living out of a healthy singleness. You're also leading out of a healthy life. You're doing self-care. You've got your own building community. You've got healthy relationships. You're building a healthy sexuality as a single person because you're belonging to Christ and you're married to Jesus first. And your life also is a sign and a wonder. It's a preaching of the gospel by the way you do your singleness. So leading out of your marriage or singleness is a very key quality of healthiness.
Let's move to a third characteristic. This is good. It's not good, but the content is fantastic, and I love what you've uncovered. The third is you say they do more activity, the spiritually unhealthy leader, emotionally unhealthy leader, they do more activity for God than their relationship with God can sustain.
Yes.
That is so true. Boom.
Yeah. Yes, because we do more activity than our walk with Jesus, our interior life can sustain.
You're driven for all the wrong reasons and purposes.
Yes, we're giving something we don't possess. We're trying to, we can only give what we possess. We can't give Jesus if he's not flowing out of our lives. I know, I've tried to do it.
As have I.
And it's the Mary Martha thing. We're running around serving Jesus, but we're not sitting at his feet, and we don't have rhythms in our lives. And the culture has basically sucked us in to activity. And so what I recommend here in the emotionally healthy leader is a radical restructuring of the rhythm of your life so you have a rhythm around Christ.
All right, let me take the last one, and we're doing lower thirds. We're telling people how to get in touch,
Sure.
get the book,
Yeah,
and all that. I want to stay on this content. The fourth is they lack a work WROK / Sabbath rhythm.
Yeah.
Now help me on that one a little bit.
Good. The rhythm, the way our culture operates, it's work, take a vacation. Work, take a vacation. The biblical understanding of rhythm is I work and 6 days I Sabbath. I work, I Sabbath. Now Sabbath is not a day off, it's to the Lord our God, and it's a spiritual formation discipline. And for a 24-hour period, I stop, I rest, I delight, I contemplate God. So my life is structured around Sabbath. In other words, that there's a delight in the gifts of God in life. And my life is not work. My life is I'm no longer a slave like under Pharaoh. I'm a free son.
Right.
Free sons and daughters can rest. I'm not trying to prove my identity or find my identity in my work. And that's why Sabbath is so important, because it helps us be and live the gospel and not just preach it.
Peter, when is your Sabbath? Because we think about as preachers, pastors, you know, if it's a Saturday, Sunday, Saturday's prep day, Sunday's game day.
Yeah, sure.
What do you do?
Well, again, I mean, Paul's very open to days in Romans 14. Every day's alike. So for my wife and I, it's Friday night to Saturday nights from 6 to 6. And fortunately, our church is large enough. I don't do weddings any longer on Saturdays, but once in a while we'll switch it. But we try to keep that rhythm.
Right.
And so we prepare for it, because you have to prepare for Sabbath. This does happen. And the key word for Sabbath is it's delight. It's receiving the gifts of God through life. And so we take that period and it's precious. We think about it. We prepare for it. We have our things that give us delight that we engage in. Wow. Very important. It's like life. I can't imagine not doing it anymore.
It's beautifully expressed, and I'm convicted that I don't have better structure of Sabbath in my life at my age. Tell us about your organization, Emotionally Healthy Leaders, and we have a website where people can go there. Tell us about it, because you're about resources, you're about training, you're about encouragement.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't set out to go change this world or anything like that. I've been a local church pastor for many years, and so what we did about 10, 11 years as this material began to go out, getting a lot of requests for materials, we began to just help pastors. So we have this nonprofit called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, and it flows out of our church, really. And we began to develop resources and tools and curriculums and courses to help churches bring this into their church to do those 4 things, basically. Become self-aware, prioritize relationships properly, slow down to be with God. Most Christians are living off other people's spirituality, not developing their own walk with Jesus. Great problem. And developing a sense of rhythms. So on the website, you'll see things like a free inventory. Am I an emotional infant, adolescent, child, or adult? Take it. Get a feel of where you are on the integration of emotional health and your spirituality. And it'll reveal, hey, I've got some work to do on this area. Because, you know, Christ wants to make us whole. We want transformation. My conviction is basically this. Okay. If we're going to change the world, we've got to be transformed ourselves. So what we are about is a deep, beneath the surface spirituality that really transforms people, who then transform the world. What we do, most churches, we're just out there, come to Christ, go out and transform the world, which is good, but if that's going to be sustainable, we've got to be experiencing ongoing, deep transformation ourselves. Yeah. And that's what Emotionally Spirituality is about.
I wish you much success with the book. I really
Thank you.
do. Thank you. The book is The Emotionally Healthy Leader. Peter Scazzero is our guest. We hope that you will get this book. Go to our website, our e-store, or you can visit his website, not only obtain the book, but also get some of these resources that are available online, and perhaps hard copies as well that you can get. Continued success to you. God bless you. Thank you very much.